Good afternoon, good evening, good day. My name's Bob Wright. It is July 13th edition of The Transitioning. I'm here with Julien Wells. Welcome back, Julien.
Hey, thank you. Last weekend was quite a trip for me. I don't know if anybody's heard about it or followed on my Facebook, but yeah, lots to share.
Yes. Looking forward to hearing about some of those discussions that you've had. I haven't heard the update yet. I don't even know if it's released yet. But,
yeah, I did an update with Chris, but I think it's still going through the editing room to make sure that it's clean and doesn't have dogs barking or whatever.
Maybe we could get a slight preview a little bit.
We could.
And welcome everyone in the chat room, everyone who's calling in. Just to repeat, if you're looking to call in, if you have a question, the number is 646-716-4598, or you can click the Skype button right at the top of the Blog Talk page if you have a Skype account and you want to connect in that way. If you are on your phone, click 1 if you have a question, and I'll know that your hand is raised, and then I'll signal me. Otherwise, I'll just think that you're sitting there listening and enjoying the show.
Well, I did have an update, and I was hoping it might be published before this show because I could sort of take it forward, to build upon what I had already shared. But last weekend I was out at Nia Bay, which is an Indian reserve place out on the Olympic Peninsula, which is basically the farthest northwest you're going to get in terms of the United States without going to Alaska. So before you have to cross through Canada, it's the furthest northwest you're going to get, right there on the ocean. And it was
literally in the corner of the country.
Literally in the corner of the country. If I had to drive from there to Florida, it'd be a crazy drive. But it's also surrounded by a rainforest, so it's basically and like a mountain range. So people don't really have a lot of need to live out there. It's mostly fishing villages and whatnot. And a good friend of mine, Larry, as you probably already heard, is a fisherman, and he has ancestry out there with people that are from there. And
so you're talking about that land that's still kind of sort of untouched?
Is very untouched, actually. I mean, like, the most advanced thing out there is, like, television. But, there's no casinos or anything like that. There is more towards, as you get more inland in Washington. But essentially, I got to get some saltwater air and got to be in the ocean, which I don't do very often, especially when it's this cold. But it was very warm, very good temperature, blue skies. Typically, that area has a lot of fog and morning fog that needs to burn off, and it's very windy. But it turned out to be really kind of a perfect scenario. On Saturday, when I couldn't be on here, I was planning on being on here, but I ended up trekking through basically like some forest to get to a secluded beach, which was awesome. Only my cell phone didn't work anywhere in the area, and the internet connection, if I was going to get some, was going to be really spotty. I wasn't planning for that, but it just turned out. And I ended up being on a beach for practically the whole day. I didn't think I thought I might be there for a couple hours, but the people I was with who had a car went out to do some stuff, and they didn't come back for several hours, and I was like, oh, shoot, I'm getting hungry, and I think I'm getting sunburned and stuff. But in the end, I didn't get too badly burned. I took care of it when I got back. But having a whole day on the beach, if you can imagine, without anything, I mean, your shirt, and I had a towel, and a whole pocket full of shells and rocks that I had picked up, basically. But really, almost like an unconsciously forced reprieve from everything. I mean, Shasta was secluded, but there were like other people in tents and coolers with food if you needed it and stuff. This was like near the brink of needing to have survival. I mean, I could have walked 5 or 6 miles or whatever, but in the end, I was out there with just a few special people, and we all had our own time. I thought, going and jumping in the waves would be good, and I can change clothes real quick, but they did not dry very quick. So I had wet clothes and ended up basically sunbathing in my underwear so that I could just handle it, because the water was cold. I mean, it was glacial.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But nice, really. I've never been, struck by waves before, so that's a new thing for me. If anybody who's been through that, you know what kind of exhilaration comes with that. Get to get kissed by the ocean in a really big way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They throw you around like a little rag doll.
Yeah, kind of knock you off your feet. But, wonderful experiences out there, and that's just on the 5 senses side of things. But on the 6th sense side of things, it was. I just want to say it was out there. We were experiencing. I want to say water fairies, but I was being told they're called sprites because they didn't have wings, but they could float. So they could fly, but they didn't have wings.
Okay.
And they were all along the shores, and I had a couple galactic cousins, not just Pleiadians, but others as well, that I could see their auras, but not their physical bodies. So that was a little trippy. I thought they were like ancestors or ghosts or whatever, but they basically came and reassured me who they were. And then there's one in particular that really, I'm going out on a deep end here, but I spoke with an entity that was like Triton. That's basically like the god of the sea sort of thing.
Oh, wow.
And so it was like, holy moly, what do I do? What did I do to deserve this sort of respect to have his time?
And did they share any information with you, or was there any sort of exchange?
We did a lot of processing, actually. We did. I can't remember it all, but it was very much helping me in the moment. It was work with the sea, with the sand, and with the sun. And what Triton brought was an understanding for me of the unseen worlds. Okay, when I say unseen worlds, I mean like fairy world. And he made it very clear to me that they exist in parallel to ours, but are basically playing hide and seek, and they don't want to come out yet. But the time is drawing, and he was letting me know that all these fabled animals and, legendary creatures are looking forward to being welcomed to our dimensional space awareness. We're talking like dragons and unicorns.
Yeah, yeah.
And, people without auric sight will get to see them. Okay?
That would be cool.
So, yeah, but anyhow, that's not...
Well, a lot of people, there's a lot of talk about people encountering mermaids now, as well as seeing fairies and the little people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, they, like the Pleiadians, would like to share the space with us. But they're not going to share the space with us if we can't cope with them, if we don't have an environment that supports their needs and interests, right? I want to say almost unequivocally, the way that we treat our meat as a group, I'm not speaking for just you and myself, but how we treat eating other animals and how we treat our food fundamentally doesn't work for them. Now they do, we can eat meat, but we're not at this stage in a compatible format with our farming techniques of animals and even landscapes. It's just not kosher enough for them, right? Basically, almost all of them are of the opinion that you should produce your own food and therefore have all the responsibility for what you're ingesting. Because if you're ingesting food prepared by others, you don't know what energy you're eating unless you're energy sensitive to what is being provided. Now, it would be nice to say we can trust everyone around us to give us the food that we want to be eating, but the sheer fact is that, you know, a lot of the food is produced based on survival needs and just having calories, which is not real food. And you can eat a whole lot less food if you're eating real food. That's
right.
And so Triton, being kind of overseeing all seafaring activities, really sort of gut punched me with a lot of this stuff. And I was like, at one point, I was so sad for my belonging to the human race, I couldn't speak. I was too choked up. Like, I'm kind of feeling a bit of that now. And there's this whole thing, when you start interacting with these beings, it's like a whole nother stage of responsibility that you need to take on. So that's kind of why I'm sharing here, even though other people can't experience them like I have. It's like a whole nother degree of like, I've got to do something about this. You know? I'm just so compelled. I just have so much empathy for where these people are sharing. And also at the same time, it's not just, oh, I would have loved to see Triton in the person, but I really only got him in my head.
Right.
And he was verified by lots of synchronistic physical things that had occurred. You know, timing and all this. So he proved that his awareness was really with me. But it does come down to, you know, be conscious of your environment, what you partake in, because right now we are in a state of being at play. We like to play, we like to have fun, we like to enjoy ourselves, right? We love to experience excitement and whatnot, but what we have is a counterbalance of limitations, and these limitations reduce our ability to perceive. It's as if we're walking around with our eyes closed.
Yeah.
Okay? And so we got to open our eyes at least before we can earn the respect of what we get to see with our eyes. And that line of respect is integral to inviting Pleiadians, other galactics, and the sort of fairy dimensions. Okay, I saw the fairy dimensions for the first time on Shasta. I saw it again here, so I know it's not just Shasta. But they're in places where people generally aren't.
Right.
Yeah, these beaches didn't have anybody. There was nobody that walked by there except for some native kids that were from the area, and they walked by. I mean, it could have, for all case and purposes, been like a nude beach, and no one would have cared. Which I almost did, but I'm not gonna share that. I was like, damn it, no one here cares, you know. So I have some really serious boxer short tan lines, but
well, you know they sell the ones that tan through. So.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking ahead. I've never been to the beach like this before, and I got it like made up for like years of not being to the beach all in one shot. But I'm very excited, and I'm hoping I'm not leaving other people too far behind me in my experiences, that I'm like speaking on too much of a different level. So if I'm getting out there, you know, reel me back in so that I don't lose the audience.
Well, you know, I've been listening, and a lot of people are starting to have similar experiences. I don't think you're alone. I think a lot of people are starting to open up to these new types of experiences, connecting with new entities, new energies that they haven't connected to ever before. You know,
I'm sort of feeling that, but I've only met basically my soul family group so far, and a couple really nice people that contact me over the internet.
Well, there's a lot of we were talking that, you know, we wanted to get into this. migrating, people discovering their soul families, a lot of movement going on, and it's having a profound effect on people's lives. You know, there's a lot of life-changing decisions that are being made right now. A lot of life-changing, awakenings, realizations that are happening. People are entering a shift, almost as though that they're starting a new life, so to speak. Putting to bed the old and starting something new. And for a lot of people, I don't want to use the word drastic because that kind of puts things in a negative connotation. Yeah. But it's been a very, very profound changes that they've had to make. And a lot of times, we're talking about ending long-time relationships. Moving away from places where you've spent your whole life. People venturing out into new areas and domains, or the contrary, moving away from old, patterns and old ways of doing things, where it just no longer suits them, or it doesn't feel comfortable anymore. People, and it brings with it a lot of times a lot of stress, because if you're engaged in something right now, and I don't mean to but just as a caution, if you're engaged in something right now that is not resonant with what's inside of you, what your soul's desire is, we're entering into a period of time where people are moving into their soul desire, moving towards their soul families, and getting more in tune with their authentic being. And anything that doesn't resonate with that, if you're engaged in, it's going to bring up a tremendous amount of stress, resistance, aggravation, frustration, where you just can no longer be comfortable anymore in that space. So there's an increase in, and I don't want to, for a lot of people, an increase in stress, anxiety, as they're holding on to old patterns or resisting change. They're going to experience a lot of friction.
Well, I feel, if I can help steer how I feel about it, I hear everything you're saying, but what I'm finding is that the people who are feeling resistant are looking for comfort with other people who hold the old patterns, right? So people who want to hold on to old patterns are seeking out people with old patterns and are doing away with people in the new patterns if it's too much of a jump for them. That makes sense? So it's a little bit of polarization. Not everybody is taking on the challenge of growth, it seems.
Well, in a similar way, then they're migrating to their
appropriate group.
Their appropriate group.
Yeah, that's right. So it's almost. So one of the things I wanted to bring up is do you think it's even an option to not find your soul family at this point? I mean, consciously, several of us seem to be doing it, but we know unconsciously we couldn't have done it without quite a bit of grace and energy that was, clearly making things happen without our conscious say-so. Do you think it's an option even?
I would say probably not.
Okay, I'm leaning a little bit that way.
I would say probably not, because, this is this new paradigm that we're moving into, I believe requires it. You know, it requires that we operate in more of a cohesive way.
Mm.
And that's going to require, us, people of similar vibration, and patterns to cooperate in ways that we may not have been before. And it also means an end to this whole lonely journey that so many of us have been on. It means a reconnection, and it's when it happens, it is like bringing a piece of home here.
You're right.
It is like bringing a piece of home here, and you get that sensation, that feeling of comfort that you do when you're home. There's no place like home. Not to sound cliche,
yeah.
but really, there's no place like home. When you're in your home, the walls literally resonate with your energy because you're sharing space. Your room. If I had duplicated a room in a house, exactly, even with the same blankets and comforter, carpet, color scheme,
sure,
you would still not feel as comfortable in that place as you do your actual bedroom. This is the reason why babies like to hold on to blankets. It's literally infused with their energy. So when you come together with your soul family, these are people that are literally resonating with a similar energy. That you enhance one another. And it's something that happens automatically. And you instantly have that relaxed, comfortable home. I'm home. These are my people.
Exactly. And then
feeling.
And what I've remarked on, which is particularly interesting and new to my experience, is that when you are with people like this, your degree of trust goes up because you can speak openly, right? You can speak more openly. And from that environment as well, you, by being more open, you get to access the deeper embedded patterns that you may still feel served that are finding their way to the surface to be addressed, from your unconscious or from your life patterns or from your childhood. It's like natural therapy,
Right. Yes. Very much so.
And that's like easy to do with people who you have a great degree of affinity with. Especially when you feel that together with your energies being so compatible that you have a future, why not start now in terms of, being authentic? And then you'll discover everything that doesn't serve being authentic, and then you bring that up, and then you have enough care for one another to let each other process that out loud and go through it exponentially quick.
Right. And you're also in with a group of people that will absolutely call you out on your bullshit.
Oh yeah, they're probably more skilled than your average person out there too.
Yeah. Can't get away with it. No.
Yeah, that's right. Authenticity is the way of the future. It's not a cliche. No. Transparency is the way of the future too.
Yep.
Because now you're not playing within the boundaries of a game. You're playing with the person.
Right.
Not playing Monopoly anymore. Put the board game aside. You get to play directly with the other person.
Right. Yeah. People need to get used to that idea, of being transparent, because we feel, and you learn at a very, very young age, you learn, how to, quote unquote, fit in. And
you learn what it takes to be, yeah.
Yeah, in order to fit in, you compromise a lot of your own personality, your own beingness, because doesn't necessarily fit someone's definition of what's normal. And this is another, word that's completely going away. Normal.
Hold on, I've got someone at the door. Just hold on for a minute.
Okay, not a problem. And we also have a couple callers, and I see that your hands are raised, so we're going to start getting into some of the callers. And everybody, I'm looking in the chat room, and no one's talking. So if you have a question and you can't call in, you wanna ask the question, just type it in the chat room, and if it's not going by too fast, I'll try to get to it. So, but for right now, I'm going to open the call lines. We do have a couple people that are waiting.
Okay, just the mailman dropping off a parcel.
Oh, okay. We have area code 612.
Hi, guys. Julien, I've been following you from the beginning, and Bob and everybody. We're on an awesome journey. Elizabeth from Minnesota.
Hi,
Hello, Elizabeth.
So when you say from the beginning, does that mean you remember my childhood?
Well, I'm sure I do. I just have to, I have to remember that far back. We're doing it. We're doing it, you guys. We're doing it.
Yeah.
So I renamed myself lately to Eternal Essence Love Revolution Warrior.
Oh, my goodness. You don't hold back, do you?
No, I'm going all the way, just with you guys. Hey, so my question is, been following the collective imagination, one people, Julien, Bob, and the whole schmill and others, Andrew, and Michael Monk, and all that. Well, just this week I got an epiphany. Nothing really matters. Nothing really matters. It's just the only thing that matters now until 2014 and beyond is becoming the energy master we are, the Christed ones that we are. And I'm asking this for all the people that, the economy and all that stuff, and they don't quite understand the depth of it all. What suggestions would you guys give out there? And I believe this goes with the gathering of the soul groups. What suggestions would you guys have to simply start walking, building that energy master within us, and releasing what already is within us? Well, to build that.
If I may, one of the big factors that kept coming up for me was when I was working with Michael in the energy mastery course. I kept thinking, so what if I know this? The rest of the world's still going to be stuck in this sort of state of not seeing what I'm able to see. And that's where I really felt, okay, then, I think I need to offer myself in a position to share that you can have your eyes opened more. Almost as if everyone doesn't know what they're doing with regards to having a sensitivity of how their energy affects one another and affects their environment and how their environment affects them. And without that, it's as if you're walking around, bumping around with your eyes closed. So the easiest analogy I can offer is, why not open your eyes and be more responsible for what you're bumping into, and then at the same time have a greater ease and capability of moving about your life, because it's a whole degree of awareness that takes you above where we're currently programmed to have our eyes mostly closed. So that's just the euphemism that I'm given to it. I mean, it works on every level. Why not have eyes instead of being blind? I mean, it just solves so many riddles, and it also gives you a better perspective on all that you do and interact with. So that's why I would learn energy. I'm a high promoter of learning and experiencing energy. You don't have to see it like I am. That's just my modality. Okay? I have visions and whatnot, and that's my modality. But paying attention to your gut is essential as well, and your gut will come before you even get auric sight, in my opinion. But you can train yourself in auric energy vision. You just train yourself. You could do it in a matter of like 2 months. Every day in front of the mirror, trying to view your own aura with a light background. You don't need to join Michael's course to do that, but he has lots of techniques that get you practicing at a very high level of efficient development for many different types of many different types of people. That's why he's got a large gamut of practices for different people, and I was attuned to some of them and less to others. But we all have our aptitudes, so we foster the bridging of the sixth sense with whatever sense that our aptitude that we're very comfortable with comes into. So we marry them together, and we can take ourselves to whole new heights of perception and experience. That's just my 2 cents.
One of the things that I would say in this period of time, pay attention to everything. Pay very, very close attention to your inner dialogue. What it is that, that voice, that you often engage in conversation with. That voice, the song that's playing in the back of your head. Pay attention to what you're feeling, what you're thinking, and watch on the outside, observe on the outside, and you will start to see the relationship between what's going on inside and what's going on outside. This is the key to understanding, how the universe is communicating, and how it is that we can change what's happening to us on the outside, by focusing and monitoring what's going on the inside. You'll start to see the universe winking at you as you're moving along your path. Brian tells that story about how he was smiling and he just wanted to smile at everybody past, and then suddenly he sees the billboard that says, "Smile, pass it on." Synchronicities like that,
Yeah.
This is the universe winking at you saying, "Hey, yeah, I'm down with that. What you're thinking right now is in line with what I want, or I am supporting it." And so I would say pay very, very close attention to a lot of the things that are going on, even that you might have before thought were just coincidences, because there's no such thing.
Yeah,
Right.
Synchronicities are usually the first line of getting you to wake up. So, oftentimes for me, well, I'll just start with myself. My birthday, September 7th, which is 9 and a 7, I see that all the time. A 9 then a 7, or 9 then a 0 then a 7. I'm virtually everywhere I see that number in that configuration. It's almost like every license plate I look at becomes that almost. It's like I can't look at license plates that don't have synchronicity on them. I can't look at my speedometer and not have a synchronicity. I was like, what the heck is going on? But at the beginning, that just meant that whatever I was thinking of in that moment in time, I was getting a heads up, a thumbs up. You're good. You're on the right track. You're following your personal timeline of awakening. And then what happens is that the synchronicities get just so blunt and out there that you literally just listen to your inner monologue, which is beyond just synchronistic moments. It takes you into, like, what am I really feeling? What am I really thinking? Beyond the veil of the outside programming. Because no matter what you've learned on the outside, in your world growing up and in your environment, the greatest truth is within you, so that you can look through all illusions on the outside. You can perceive all that is trying to shape you into what this or that. When you have what's inside, there's nothing outside of you that can fool you. I mean, there's lots of techniques to fool you, but in the end, even this concept of like having spirits and dark entities, speak in your ears and stuff, and saying, oh, beware of, bad energies and stuff, which makes you sort of distrust some of what you hear in your head. I mean, that's another technique to limit your interest in expanding your awareness. It's like almost teaches you not to listen to your inner monologue. But the more you do listen to your inner monologue, the more you earn discernment over what is really true, because your emotions will serve as the additional Geiger counter for what is in tune and what isn't.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. But now you explain that, let's go a step further.
Mm-hmm.
In being who we really are. So what is a simple thing to start out? Like, I listened to one of the meditations Peter did, I think the last Walking in Energy show, where you breathe in and you breathe in the energy coming up from between your legs when you're standing up, and then breathing that energy from above you in, right?
Mm-hmm.
To expand your energy, because we are way bigger than we think we are. So that's where I am. I'm ready. I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to do this, and I believe a lot of us are, even with the ones that are on the call now. We're ready. We came out of the matrix. We disengaged. You guys are a couple steps ahead of us, but there's a lot of people that don't. Yeah, you don't need money, whatever, but
nope.
I guess just the desires of your heart will magnetize the teacher, even within you. Is that what you're saying?
At first, what you're going to find out is that your entire reality is derived from your point of awareness.
Yes.
When you get to at least a good meditation where you feel that, or you have a good experience of being high where you feel that, then you get to that point where all other reality thought forms are based on that root. That's like your grounding point. That's the most true thing you can have. Everything from that is a deviation and a development based on that. I don't want to say deviation. It's all a development from that point. So it's very useful to be able to get to a point of centeredness where you recognize where you really come from. That's very useful, and that's why people are, touting meditation left and right and transcendental stuff and experiences and feeling energy, because that's a root point that you can grow your trust of what you are and what you're doing here. And when it comes down to techniques like, drawing energy through you and feeling it and whatnot, that is actually quite an advanced feature. I'm going to be honest. Most people are not at the level of perception or prepared confidence to begin working that way. If the audience wants to start working at those levels, I'm fully ready to start doing some meditations. But
that'd be great.
I think it'd be
a good role model for everybody to start desiring this, no matter what level they're on.
And Elizabeth, almost anything can be a meditation for you.
Yeah.
If taking a walk through the woods puts you in that calm space, then do that.
Yeah.
If it's putting a set of headphones on and putting on, whatever music it is that you like, that helps you escape, and whatever it is that helps you forget all of the stresses and worries and things that occupy or distract you from what your intent is. Whatever that is.
Get to the theta.
Get
and
to
the brainwave.
That space, right. And you'll start to notice that anything that it is that is in the way of you achieving your goal, any limitation, is going to show up as an experience externally.
Okay.
You start monitoring and thinking, watching what you're thinking. The thought, well, I can't do that because that limiting thought is going to show up somewhere externally. And you'll be able to recognize it. And you'll find that you'll start resolving things very, very quickly. Lifetime issues will start to get resolved almost instantly, and you'll instantly start to make the changes, because once you recognize it, it won't feel comfortable in doing it the other way anymore.
At
least
that's
been
true.
my experience.
Yeah, that's true. So I know we've learned that to be the healer, we have to first go through the healing ourselves, a lot of the healing. And I've been on that path a long time. Others have, and there's some are still starting. But one more question. What was it? Oh, darn it. I lost it. But we're on the track. I know I'm a forerunner and a pioneer. I want to be transfigured. You know what I mean? In another way.
Mm-hmm.
Christ did, one of the first ones, so we can help the others be pulled out, because there's many others. Yeah, I think this is where this group is.
That's what pioneers are for. And at this time, actually, where the majority of people here are pioneers for society in general, as we know it, because we're gaining our confidence in the pioneer mode. I mean, we're relatively small numbers still at this point, but we're at a threshold that's beyond the necessary numbers to change the rest of the world.
And I'm getting a little bit of energy from you. Stop trying to be. Okay? Stop trying to be, because being is not something that you have to try, because it's something that you are. Stop trying to be Christed. You know, because you already are. It's who you are.
I know.
And
I know I'm a real person. I get kicked for it all the time. I don't think I try. I'm just a real. I'm real there.
And it's just a matter of being okay, being yourself. Just let go of all of the anything that's limiting, that says that you're not what you're trying to be.
Sometimes for me, recognizing that in myself, it's kind of like I'd be watching a movie.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm watching an actual movie, and then I come to a point where, this movie really sucks, or it's pissing me off, or I can't believe the actor's not doing exactly what I would do, or something like this. And I actually step away, and I look away from the screen all of a sudden. I say, well, this is not me. I'm beyond this movie. I don't have to experience the drama that's being presented here. I'm beyond this. I already know. I don't have to watch this to know that there's a lesson here. I already got it. I already am beyond, the triviality of several dramatic moments that are occurring. And I don't need to make those mine. And so I sort of like waking up in the Matrix kind of feeling where you're just like, hey, I have a choice here. I don't have to follow the flow of the script.
Yeah.
And in those places,
bored.
Well, you can get bored, but
I mean, you get bored with the lessons you've already learned if you stumble onto the lessons you've already learned. Right.
But it seems that when you get to a particular point, all that's around you is trying to replay the movies. It's like leaving the television on and just being stuck watching the television. But you got to stand up at some point and walk around on your own, even if every single other person's watching the television. You have your point of awareness that is beyond that. And when other people start taking note, hey, that person left watching TV. Like, what is he doing? There's nothing better than what's on TV. I say, well, actually, there is. And you demonstrate how you can live outside the scope of a television, which is basically just another euphemism for the programming of our society.
So tell me this, Julien. You've experienced some of your soul family gathering, Mount Shasta and all that. Do you say that?
I lost you. Your signal is bleeped out. You there?
The Christed one.
Okay, I missed quite a bit of what you were saying.
Okay, so would you say the soul families gathering together at the time, families come together, they'll be helping each other, grow as an energy mass of one. All is, I mean, to be at the same time. Or not.
Bob, are you getting this same interference?
Yeah, she is breaking.
Okay,
I don't know,
so
her signal is clipping, but I think I get the gist of what she's asking.
Yeah, I think I do too. So soul family, if I could give more clear definition, maybe that would serve. Soul family is like your own family in the way, as in like your genetic family, in the way that you have an unconscious, pre-established attachment to their well-being because you know that they serve your own well-being. It's like your best friend already. But what's really good is that typically you get to be yourself. You don't require much illusion in your interrelationship because it's almost like, you grew up with your brother. There's no point lying to him because he'll figure it out eventually because he's around you for long enough, right? There's no point fooling someone who is going to be there for the rest of your life. Now, I'm not saying soul family is necessarily around there for the rest of your life. I'm just saying there's no point living any illusion or masquerade because they do get you for who you are. And they do get you from where you're coming from. And they do have the patience like a family. That does not mean that they all agree on the same things. In fact, far from it. Half of what a soul family does is help them chew on the really deep stuff together. And then when your soul family has done enough chewing of the patterns that really hold them from being fully free, so you help each other and heal each other, then you get to a point where you now are, as a group, more awakened and on par with being able to support people outside the soul group. It's almost like soul groups are destined to support each other to the degree where they can begin to support other groups. So it's a catalyzing event. And we were talking earlier, is it a choice even to be a part of one? I could only say that if you are not feeling draws to individual people at this time, then you're not quite ready in yourself to be at that level of social, because it's extremely social. Okay, so start paying attention to what keeps you from being social and expressing yourself, because those may be some roots that you need to take a look at first.
Okay, I'm not sure if
can you hear
her
me?
line. Yeah, we can hear you now.
Cool.
I was wondering if
Excellent.
your connection was restored.
It's my new phone. Sorry, it's my
Were
new
you
phone.
were you able to hear the response?
Yes, it was excellent. Thank you so much. I'll let the other callers come in. I love you guys, and keep on the love revolution. I'll see you someday.
All right, thanks, Elizabeth.
Thanks for calling, Elizabeth. Area code 505.
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you guys for being there. I really appreciate it very much.
Well, thank you for calling. Who do we have?
You can call me Mira.
Mira.
Hi, Mira.
Yes. Hi. I have a question. I just recently listened to let's call it the Pleiadian Oneness Talk with the 13 Pleiadians.
Yes.
And regarding my question would be kind of for them, and whether or not they are aware of this particular plan. There was a plan with a certain, I guess you might call them Wave Zero light workers, where there was a certain number of couples where one of the mates would incarnate on Earth and the other would remain on ships. And then when first contact would be made, the reunion of these mates was to be sort of an aid to most, quote, regular humans, if you will. And my question would be if these Pleiadians are aware of this plan and if it is at all viable anymore, and if possible, if it might still be enacted at all.
It's a very big thing. It's very true. But I can't say more than that. It's still active.
Okay. So there's nothing more to be said about that at this point.
It's still true. There's still reunification between basically soul twin flames sort of things. And they're meant to be reunited. And that, in part, is meant to help keep those here that have a lot of energy to provide, keeps them terrestrial rather than taking their lives to get back to their separation. So it's a personal drive factor that's important for some. Different people have different drives for awakening, and this is one of them. But it's actually a very large population. I mean, I want to say there's at least 10 million in this scenario.
10 million.
Not necessarily Pleiadians, but with other galactic relationships that they just must work towards returning to.
Oh, okay. All right, I think I understand. And is there anything else that they could share at this time about that?
If you really, really, really want to know who your counterpart is, so to speak, then you'll want to do work with past life regression because they can access you beyond the veil or hypnosis.
Also,
I'm already very much aware of that.
Okay.
Very aware of it. So
you can also make an intention to meet in your dream time. And lucid dreaming is going to be a lot easier to accomplish. Even if you've never had any experience with lucid dreaming before, make the intention, look into it a little bit. You'll find that it's quite easy in this energy to slip into a lucid dream, and you can make the intention to meet with your counterpart in your dream time.
It's getting easier and easier. You don't have to go to bed for the night. It can be like an afternoon nap.
Yeah.
Right. And the Pleiadians just want me to share this with the group because they're being smart asses. Actually, they know I've spent a good deal of my time playing video games in my life, and I'm sort of a video game aficionado, and I know what gamers are like. And they said lucid dreaming is going to be the new rage in terms of replacing video game time. So they're saying it's a lot better than video games.
It is a lot better than video games.
So all those still addicted to video games, you might want to look into lucid dreaming. It's the next great virtual reality. Sort of.
As opposed to lucid dreaming, how about face-to-face?
Face-to-face is in the cards, and it is in the books. But lucid dreaming and the dreaming space is a preparation space for the physical. It's often used for, divination and predicting and all that, but it's also a place where people get to chew on things before they go out and accidentally break their arm doing something dramatic. Does that make sense? It's like it can also be used as a testing plane. Just think holodeck and all the opportunities you have with a holodeck, because you can do things you wouldn't normally be able to do. You can interact with people in ways you didn't normally interact. You can summon in anything you can imagine. You can work with people that want to make themselves available in your physical space. It's sort of like organizing meetings. A lot of meetings happen there. It's a fundamentally invaluable resource for everybody going forward. At this point, it's still not mainstream understood exactly how much work gets done in that place. But if you want to increase your effectivity in your pre-planning and your playing out timelines and supporting the decisions you want to try and make happen, you can start working there, and there is an abundance, incredible abundance, just on YouTube alone, of people explaining the process.
I have a really dear friend. His name is Reese Jones.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a
Reese,
YouTube.
yes, he has a good series. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got a YouTube channel dealing with lucid dreaming. He's got a lot of experience with helping people, get into that state. So look him up. He's got a lot of really valuable information.
I only have one piece of advice, caveat to this, is that when you have access to holodeck, you start having a lot more disassociation with the non-holodeck world. You can get addicted. That's not a bad thing, but at the same time, you do have a physical body for important reasons. So do try to take note of why you actually, remember why you have a physical body for any reason at all.
Until you come to realize that what you do on the holodeck you can do while you're awake as well. Because
yeah, it's all options. Mm-hmm. But
that.
yes, we do want to meet our extended family, our soul family that is not on the planet right now. This is very clear, and it is very desired from both sides. It's a magnetic pull on both ends, and it is, at least from my point of view, it's bound to happen. And when I say bound to happen, I'm not waiting around to let it happen on its own. I'm trying to make it happen. I'm part of the welcoming team, an invitation for this to occur.
Right. Could you also address the very real issue of interference by those who wear the dark T-shirts regarding telepathic communications?
Well, there's a large gamut of questions that we could delve into there. Did you have something more specific?
Regarding this main topic that we're talking about.
Okay. Well, they have you ever seen a child who was at school and didn't fit in, so he kind of acted out a bit? Where a child sort of like pitches a fit or something? That's them. Okay? They're trying to gain their own sovereignty by manipulating the environment so that they can feel assured and comfortable with the way that they're willing and interested in acquiring energy for themselves. But in the end, the best way to help them is to love them. Let them know that they don't have to pitch fits to earn love or attention. Because earning attention is done in many different ways. And really, it all comes down to inviting the correct kind of attention. Right? All energy is invited. All energy that successfully makes it into your experience is invited. And so to learn how to invite experiences and energy is really an attitude adjustment. Right?
And a lot of that telepathic interference that you're talking about, Mira, it's almost likened to a lot of that technology that they used in order to keep people in a certain vibration, and also where they did a lot of psychic attacks and hampering. That was likened to being, let's say, on AM or FM radio. Well, everybody's getting switched to XM right now. So all of that technology that was tailored to AM and FM doesn't operate because we're all on XM. It's a new energy. So that whole energy grid that they relied on and operated on has been replaced or overlaid. And people have the option now to operate on this new grid. And this new grid is clean, virus-free.
Sustainable.
Yes.
And, well, also take note, or at least I'm going to mention that their only plan right now is to try to get you to recreate their desires on the new field of energy. They want you to recreate the AM and FM mode of limitation on the XM technological level. That's their only card. But fundamentally, if it happens rapidly enough, people will just be like, screw that. And so the natural awakening and knowing what the value is of working with the new technology, they'll be like, yeah, I really don't think these things matter anymore, these old paradigms. And so it's easier and easier. But at the same time, those who are... How do you suggest walking off of that? Walking in and
being on the other wavelength, so to speak, rather than the old.
That's automatic. You can't even avoid that.
Okay, cool.
Okay, that's the planet and the solar system and the galactic central sun's gift to us, and it's a big ass tidal wave of change, and that's kind of why we're here. We decided we're going to cruise that high wave. Yeah.
You wouldn't be talking to us if it wasn't already operating in you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You can't even screw it up. No, you can't do anything to stop it. I'm sorry, but it's also why the Pleiadians bother talking to me, because they know that our future is together. If we did not have a future together, they would just be annoying me because I'd never get to see them. But I'm fundamentally looking forward to hugging them in person. And they know that everything, all energy is leading to that development. Our cruise ships are coming to meet in the same direction. They're flowing closer together in terms of our reality.
Some of us have been waiting for a long time for our ships to come in, so to speak.
Well, technology being what it is, some people had to get the rowboat started at the beginning before it could become a big cruise ship of change, right? So we have people who have been around working, paddling, and seemingly getting nowhere, but in fact momentum is always serving. So all your experiences are serving us in this moment right now. Should no one have come up and even spoken a spiritual expanded word before like 2008, we would be assured on the dark timeline. Okay? There would be not nearly enough light to get that train rolling in the direction that has been, divinely chosen. Because there's always timelines. There's always deviations we can take. But right now, it's like everything I see points to heaven landing on Earth. And I don't mean like ships. I mean like literally like heavenly elements becoming part of our day-to-day life. So, anyways.
Well, I appreciate everything that you've been speaking about. I very much do. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
So, Bob, did my friend Brian call in by any chance?
Let me see. I'm looking for 541. Let me see if I can find him in the board.
So I'll share just really briefly.
Yeah, I think I have him.
So if you want to bring him on, we can talk about my friend Brian Porter.
Okay, his mic is live now.
Brian, are you there?
Hi, Julien.
Hi, Brian. I'm glad you could join us.
I'm very excited.
Welcome, Brian.
So, thank you very much.
I thought I might introduce you a little bit.
That'd be great.
So, Brian, I first met in Shasta. Convenient, I know.
Breaking up, Julien. Are you still there?
I'm still here. So,
No.
So I hope
what do
it's
I
not
need to
just
do?
Okay. Now you're. No. You're fine. You're fine, Brian.
Okay.
It's Julien that kind of dropped off.
Okay. How about now?
Okay, now I can hear you.
So he had this, it looked like a massage table and a bunch of very large, 20-pound crystals on a copper netting that was underneath it. And this was out in the open air near our campsite. And I was like, what is this? This looks fascinating. And a couple people were laying down, and Ryan was working with them, and I wasn't really paying attention to what was going on, but I said, I think this must be doing something, because as people were getting off, their aura was like 10 feet tall. They're literally supercharged, super energy, super brilliant, smiles and tears plastered on their face. I was like, I got to try this. I got to check this out. And this is before I even started venturing into what crystals really were. I know I've talked about it since. So I got an opportunity to go lay on this bed, and we went through a little bit of Brian's technique, and I guess a little bit of ritual that he's familiar with. And I had my first major visionary journey. And I thought, since he's now in Seattle for a couple of days now, going to be here for a couple of days,
correct.
Brian?
Yes.
And he was here. I visited with him last night with another one of my soul family, Elise Finlayson. And it happened again in a whole nother way. He brought us crystals, and we visited at our friend's apartment. And holy crap, can't even begin to explain how amazing it is. And I was hoping Brian here could share a little bit of what he understands is going on, or what is going on. What are you bringing here? I've never heard of this.
Let me give a little background, Julien. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I talk for? Okay. So if I'm talking too much, interrupt me or something. Redirect.
Sure.
I'm working with. Basically, it's an Atlantean technology. The information about how to make the copper grid itself was channeled by a man named Frank Alper in a series of books that he did about Atlantis called Exploring Atlantis. Then Roman numerals 2 and Roman numerals 3 has the design on how you can make a copper grid. Very few people have actually taken the time to do that. Part of it is you need to build a frame first, because the copper grid is about the size of a massage table on the floor, and you're it has 1 1/4 inch squares, the open space. So to make a grid, it takes about 2,000 soldering points. So it's a long project to do that. What it seems to do is that the grid itself creates an energy field. The next step up will be that you would add 12 double terminated crystals on it to further help amplify the ability to affect the energy field. And you would put those, one at the top of the field and one at the bottom, and then one at the ankles, roughly where people's ankles would be, knees, hip, our hip or wrist, elbow, and shoulder. We had those on each side of it. For me, I added much bigger crystals to it. The crystals that Julien saw at Mount Shasta, they said were 20 pounds, were actually, 2 of them were 60 and one was 50. And that's sort of, I've got that sort of similar type of setup here in Seattle. There's probably another 4 or 5 crystals that are 20 to 30 pounds. And what it does is it creates a very large energetic field, and has a wide range of frequencies. And then part of what happens, I do two things with it mainly. I mean, one is I do group gatherings, which is what Julien attended last night, and I also do individual sessions with people, and which is what he did a little mini session on Mount Shasta. The mini sessions, people lie on a massage table over the crystal grid, and the energy of the crystals is underneath them. And what seems to activate the energy field is the person's breath. Like in almost any spiritual tradition, the breath is a really important component of the awakening process. So why don't you redirect me in some way? I'm not sure where to go from here.
Well, you were reminding me about paying attention to my breath and doing a little bit of like the fire breath example,
right,
which is breathing in and out. And I felt like it was like a pneumatic, like pedal, like on a bicycle. So you can add
right
to the pedaling of the energy moving forward. And that really incredible experiences physically and at other levels especially. I had several visions last night. I don't necessarily need to share, but so this what really did the Atlanteans have this set up for healing or for having visions? I mean, what was its primary purpose, do you think?
I think it was basically as a tool for healing for people that for some reason got out of balance, but I think it also is an ongoing tool to maintain a level of balance. Part of there's several functions there's several things that it's doing at the same time that I'm aware of. And I'm not saying this is all that it's doing, but the things that I'm aware that it's doing is, one is it's because the crystals are of the earth itself, and what the crystals are doing is they're broadcasting the energies of the earth, and the earth frequencies are in this acceleration process, and we've moved from 7.8 to about 13 hertz, which is a major shift, and as we're doing that, our bodies are not necessarily staying in sync with the energies of the earth. And if we're not in sync with that, if we're not balanced with the earth, we're going to be in dis-ease. Our bodies are going to start breaking down. So one of the functions that this breathing the crystals and just crystals in general is that they are broadcasting the energies of the earth to help us realign ourselves with where we need to be with the earth itself. Another thing that this is creating is that it becomes like a very large broadcasting and receiving station for universal or cosmic energy. So you with the idea that the original radio was the crystal with copper wire around it, this is like copper wire with a whole bunch of really big crystals on it. So it's, in a sense, sending our intentions, prayers out to the universe, and it's drawing in frequencies from a very wide range of locations. And what the crystals do is that those frequencies come in. One of the things that crystals are able to do is that when there's a certain energy that's put into it, it'll tend to hold it and sort of resonate it. And I think that's what the computers are all based on, is the little silicon chips. So what this does is it supports an energy field for people to have an experience. And one of the main experiences, my orientation with the copper grid that I have is that it's a tool for supporting people to have an experience. And when you experience something, you know something that's true for you. So it feels like it's a tool to help us turn back inside and discover our own sense of what is true in our lives, so that we can share that and stop looking outside and being controlled in various ways that I think you've talked about on your show. And
excellent. I just wanted to share for myself, I literally felt like I was holding on to a live wire. It was really trippy. I thought my hair might stick up, actually.
Yeah, it was a little bit, Jim.
It was.
I'm just joking.
But tremendous, because you don't actually have, I mean, is it plugged into any kind of current on the wall or battery or anything?
No.
So it's doing it on its own.
Right. So what you experience is the subtle energy field, it's more like you're having a direct experience of energy in your body. And what starts to happen for a lot of people when they're in this energy field, and just a couple basic things, is that usually the longer the time you spend around or in this energy field, like, if you come to a group thing or you're visiting me or someone who has a setup like this in their house, the longer you're there, you'll start to feel the energy stronger. And then the other thing is that the more times you come and experience it, your body will tend to go into an experience more quickly. So that you had an experience, Julien, at Mount Shasta, you had an experience last night. So if you come again tonight, I'm doing an event here in Seattle tonight, you'll probably move into a deeper level experience even faster than the previous time.
Well, it definitely was built upon the last one. I thought the last one was magnificent, but where I went this time was crazy, nuts, awesome. I don't really have good words for it.
Right. So let me add one other thing. So one of the things that happens is that people rarely have the same type of experience. Like if you come tonight, you're not going to have the same sort of visions probably that you had last night. It might be even a totally different experience, because there isn't anything that I'm trying to make happen for you. And I think that people generally come with an open mind to experience the energy in whatever way it's particularly showing up for you. My personal orientation is I feel that people's souls bring them to this experience because there's something that's ready to happen on a soul level, that the soul is sort of helping orchestrate, and that this is a place where that energy is available. And so it's not my job to try to make anything happen. It's more my job, if I have a job, whether it's like a group experience or individual thing, is to encourage the person to have the experience that they've come for.
Well, apparently a lot of things were bubbling in the background of my life that I didn't see coming. I mean, I don't want to say I was blindsided, because it really did serve for me on both occasions to really take me to the next level with myself and my exploration of my energy and exploration of what is really possible that I can access. It was almost like, for me, it was almost like cheating in terms of acquiring energy, because the other times that I've energized myself, it was quite a bit of preparation and work to do so. It could take like a good week of fasting and eating really well and developing my meditation practice before I got to this. So it's like, I don't want to say a shortcut, but it kind of was for me.
Well, that might be, it may be the case. I mean, I think I caught just the last little bit of what was happening before I came on, and it seems like there's a lot of things that are now being made available that were not previously available, in part because we're moving to a level of frequency as a human species, that we're starting to access more of the tools and more of the abilities and more of the access that we haven't had previously as humans before the energy frequencies on the planet dropped, like at the end of Atlantis. One of the just to finish up on this one of the other things that happens, two things that happen oftentimes for people. One is that oftentimes people will move into a direct experience of energy, and by that, the simplest example would be if your hand starts to shake at the in this energy field. If you're usually for most people, if their hand's shaking, it's because their mind told the hand to shake. But if your hand just starts to shake on its own, and the mind hasn't sent that message, you didn't have any sense that the hand was about to shake, that's giving you a sense that you're having a direct experience of energy. And when that happens, the mind doesn't really know anymore what's going on. So you can receive, when the mind is stepped sort of out of it, it's like it doesn't understand what's going on, or what's going on in the body or what's happening. You can receive vast amounts of information quickly. You can get downloads. You could, in theory, you totally heal yourself in a moment, because there's nothing that's limiting really your experience. And your body, my belief is that your body knows what to do with the energy. You don't need to try to control it or tell the body what to do with it. The body is able to handle the amount of energy that's going to access, and it's going to sort of filter the amount of energy as long as it's being projected by me towards you, but you're just coming into the field. That I feel that it's really for people to access whatever they access. The other thing that is pretty common for people, especially more so probably in the individual sessions where I'm also working with my hands touching parts of their body and helping move energy mainly up to the central core of the body. I also work with crystals over the body and with fragrances and sound sometimes. Is that what this seems to do is it seems to allow energy that's been held in space and time, either in your body or in your energy field, to begin to move.
I definitely sense that.
So it's not so much like my mind is deciding what part's going to move. It's just that's where the soul is it's going to orchestrate things that have been maybe stuck, maybe things from past lifetimes, or maybe things that have been replicated also in this lifetime. Issues or emotional things, but it's not so much the feeling, the emotion of it, it's more the direct energy of that, so that you're able to move it through your body the process it, so it doesn't have to hold it anymore. And what that does is it allows us to make your shifts in a very short period of time.
This is one of the things I find really fascinating, and what's really unique about crystal energy, because you're dealing with consciousness in the crystal, and that consciousness can communicate with your consciousness. So there's no guesswork involved.
Yeah.
There's no need for complex diagnosis or anything. There's an interaction that is taking place, and a planning, as to how it's going to proceed in conjunction with your own consciousness. So it's a much higher order of medicine. It is a much higher form of technology, more that is intuitively driven.
It's like because consciousness is kind of like a personality, but at a really high level of respect for one another when they work together. So it's almost like when two people are peas in a pod. This is like this on steroids and to the fifth power essentially. And another thing, another experience that I had is I actually had to go to the chiropractor yesterday morning because I had a pinched back. It was really, really hurting me. Even after, like, all day, it had bothered me. But after the first 20 minutes, half an hour, it was practically gone, as if I had taken extreme pain medication. So I was like, wow, that is awesome. It's like kind of healed my body just as I needed it at that time, because I wanted to be able to sit upright and be comfortable, and it made it very comfortable for me in a short span. So I'm guessing it does kinds of healing too, I guess, as needed.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's just going to allow. It's also doing some other things. It's also going to tend to support the balancing of the left and right sides of the body, the left and right sides of the brain. Because there's a alignment of the stone sort of on either side of the grid, and if you're laying over it, it creates all these triangulations and ways to sort of support that. It's trying to generally help the energetic system of the body, the chakra system, especially the lower chakras, the upper chakras, to become like a balance and sort of a pressure relationship so that your body is fully flowing. And then when and if that happens, for you, then it's going to support you getting to access the etheric magnetic field, which is the outer field. And when that happens, that's when that state is when we're really turned on and we're connected to the larger universe. Can we see the energy directly? You probably wouldn't have to eat anymore at that point.
I basically hadn't gone eating since it was at 7:00 we started or so. I'd gone without eating since about 10 a.m. and I think we got a bite to eat around 11 or something. I was like, wow, I really lack of appetite or something. But
I want to say one other thing. That the way that I hold this energy field is that I'm not trying to make anything particular happen for people. That I really believe that each person is responsible for their own experience, and so people coming, to these events, that's one of the key things is that you want people to come that willing to accept responsibility for their own experience. And the same sense with that, is that the groups function much better if everyone's open to the experience. So if someone, comes that not really gets afraid or they realize this is the right place, then they should probably, I would encourage people just to leave or something, rather than to hold the energy back for the whole experience. Because it may not be something for everybody at this time, because that sense of responsibility, is growing really pretty quickly in our society, but not everyone's there quite yet.
Yeah, I get this sense actually that I'm going to speak real quickly to the Pleiadians. It said, don't get on a Harley by yourself if you've never ridden a motorcycle before.
Right.
Even though it looks like fun, take note of what level of experience you're inviting when you do that.
Yeah, because you could very easily hurt yourself.
Yeah.
On a Harley, because they're heavy.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Brian, for joining us here today. I will be with Brian again tonight, and I've posted. Bob, do you think you could post that link that I had to the Facebook event in the chat for people? I mean, obviously, it's in Seattle, so this will only really apply to people who are in the near vicinity. But you're going to be sticking around the area for a while, and maybe do private sessions or things like this coming up.
Yeah, my life has been a little bit of a transition. I've been living in Portland, Oregon, for the last 7 years, but I was an elementary school teacher, and I've just sort of retired from that. Mm-hmm. And I'm now looking to do this work more full time. So I'm looking to travel a little bit more. I will be going back to Portland this week, and then I'll be heading out to Eastern Oregon for a little bit of time, and then I have a healing fair at the Oregon coast in the first weekend in August. But the rest of my time is pretty open. So if you're in a different part of the country and you've caught your attention in some way, then be in contact. I'd love to help with you.
Try to see if we can schedule you to come out to where we can get you to work with some people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, thanks again for coming on and sharing. And again, thank you so much for what you're bringing and what you're offering. Like I said, for me, people who have heard my experiences from Shasta, it started here. It started on this table. So if you want an opportunity to kickstart your access to energy, this may be your thing. If you're in the Seattle area or maybe the Western Washington, is probably what we're talking about. But Bob, did we have anyone else on the board waiting to come on by any chance?
No, not right now. We don't.
Okay. I didn't want to hold anybody back from an opportunity.
But this talking about crystals, it brought to mind something. Mm-hmm. I had watched a video about this 8-year-old boy, and he put together this crystal grid. And these little children that are coming in completely activated, and they're waxing eloquent like college professors. And I'm talking kids like 7, 12, 11 years old, talking about subjects far beyond their chronological age, of knowing. And this is largely because a lot of their parents, were woo-woo way back in the 90s and so. And they're born in an environment where they're given the signal it is okay to be yourself. So you're going to find a lot of these kids, they're not going to, it's going to be very, very, very hard to shut them off. The way society has shut off a lot of these abilities in all of us as we were coming up. Usually by the time you're 8 years old, you're pretty much in a rapid decline in your imaginative, creative ability. And
especially if you're being guided by a television.
Yeah. The education system is notorious for this. But even kids today that are in the system, it is going to be very, very difficult to turn that off in these kids. So pay attention to, other than, there's still effects with chemicals and they're still drugging a lot of these children. But pay attention to the children. There is no, this is a part of the transition where the children are going to play a very huge role in helping a lot of their parents who are stuck.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I'm already getting that in a big way with my 14 and 4-year-old. I opened up a bit more to that approach when Michael basically explained, oh, well, we don't really have a course for kids yet because they're actually already masters. I'm like, oh, really? It's like, oh, yeah, you just, spend more time with them on their level and see exactly how they approach things, and you'll get a lesson in a short order. I'm like, really? It's like, yeah, if you want to show them the exercise and stuff, they'll be masters on their first shot or their first go. I'm like, okay, and he was right. He was right.
Yeah, if you spend as much time with your children that you can, they're coming in with information that is fresh, original, and very, very new paradigm.
Yep. Yep. So it's hard for us, right, as parents to wonder exactly what we should be teaching our kids now, because like I'm waking up to a completely different approach to living life, and I don't know, how much I need to feed of in terms of old habits of parenting. And I'm finding out just living in the moment, you'll know exactly what feels right, and just moment to moment as it should be.
And it's getting easier. It's getting so much. It's getting so much easier. This is, it's amazing because this energy, like I mentioned before, it makes it very, very uncomfortable for you to do the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Humans, we naturally gravitate away from pain, towards pleasure, towards joy. Mm-hmm. And so it's like you said, it's one of those things you really can't mess up on, because your circumstances are going to push you in the right way. And once you start to get the cues, that your experience is trying to teach you or trying to show you, and you start to work with it, light speed. I'm watching people quantum jump in understanding, like, literally wake up one morning with a completely new understanding of life in the universe. You know, people are having profound, and sometimes it's just a dream that triggers them. And they, oh, wow, and they suddenly get it. You know, this is, a lot of people, you know, ask the question about a lot of the activity that's going on in the world, you know, geopolitically, and it's going to take years to get everybody to that level of consciousness. I'm sorry, it's not. It's absolutely not, because they're basing their information on old energy. And this new energy is very, very different. It doesn't work in the same way as the old energy does. What used to take years can be done in moments.
Yep. And we're allowed to live in this paradigm. Some people think, oh, that's just for a few people, or that's only a fad, or, you know, people have talked about, you know, spiritual concepts for decades and all this, and why hasn't it worked in the past? It's not going to work now. All this, like, no, I'm sorry. Let's, you know, if you understood it then, bring it back, speak to it now. It serves in this moment of now. Don't assume because you've been there, done that you've actually done that in our relative period of now. Because the energy is a different degree of support right now. It's not fair to say, yeah, I already tried doing the law of attraction or something. It doesn't work. Well, I think it's time for revisiting exactly what that is. In fact, children are masters of it, right? He's like, holy crap, my kid's better at this than I am. You know, and I'm being deliberate about trying to get in the mojo.
But, you know, it's really, I mean, what I'm seeing, and we've reached a point right now, and I think everyone really needs to take note. We're reaching a point right now where it's going to become uncool not to be engaged in your authentic internal journey.
Yeah.
It's going to become, the weird ones are going to be the ones that are holding on to the old paradigm. You know, people are going to, it's going to become completely reverse of what we were used to. What a lot of us, people who call ourselves in the first wave, you know, who awoke early, it's going to be the complete opposite of what you're used to. Because at that period of time, you were the weird one. You were the shunned one. You were the way out crazy, insane, out of touch with reality. And it's going to be the complete reverse. Anyone who is still looking at things in the old way are going to be, oh, come on, get with the program, you know?
Basically, yeah. Yeah. When I look back, I did a reading on the Akashic for my audience, and I basically said, well, how much of the world is ready, you know, to listen to this show? And I was curious. And it came up with 10% of the population is ready to talk about this, which is dramatic because I also checked it and said only 7% need to be checked in to already represent past the tipping point. The tipping point is at 7%. We're rolling in a train going downhill towards our new energy, and then I checked in when was it. You know, how fast has it been going? And basically, last year, 1 year ago, it was at 5%. So we've already doubled in the number of audience members that are willing to listen to a show like this at this particular space and time. So if we just, you know, keep going with the tangent, you know, we're looking at within a year, it's almost more than 50% in terms of the growth factors.
Yeah, you're dealing with geometric progression, and it starts getting crazy. Exponential progression.
You know, Chris pinged me on Skype. He was hoping to get a chance to come in and mention his show that's going to be starting tomorrow.
Let me pull him in.
Do you have him? Yeah. See if he's there. He's probably listening.
Hello, Chris.
Hello.
Oh, hi, Chris.
How are you going? Just hang on a second there, guys. I've got the broadcast going live, which is not recommended. There we go. How are we all?
Doing great.
We're doing awesome.
Excellent. Hello to everybody out there. I know you'll be enjoying the show. I've been listening to the bits and pieces of it as I popped in and out of the office. And you guys really cover some material.
Cover what's fun.
Yeah.
Well, that's actually a really good thing.
Yeah.
There's so much unfun out there. Fun is good.
Yeah. I also really like the Enjoy show. Man, that's a fun show.
Yeah, we had an absolute ball on that last week. And you can plan them all you like, but they never really quite turn out the way you planned. They actually usually turn out better.
Okay. Excellent.
Yeah.
Now,
Bob knows.
that's a great new show. And do you remember the times that's airing for those who probably are maybe new to it?
Yeah, look, it airs an hour earlier than the One People show and the Collective Imagination. So it'll be 4 p.m. on the West Coast, 7 p.m. on the East Coast. And it would be in Australia on Thursday. Let's get this right. It will be Thursday morning, 9 a.m. in Australia. Okay. And Wednesday evening, 4 p.m. in the West Coast and 7 p.m. on the East Coast in the USA.
Yeah. So if you like Brian's giggling and listening to people talk about exciting things, not, mission statements like we seem to be talking about relative to their level of excitement, that's the place to go to cheer yourself up, I think. And, go after the recordings, too. I was on one, not last week, but the week before. I got to spend a little time with Judy. And then, you've got a show coming out tomorrow, maybe not at the same type of excitement, but it is exciting because it's a show talking about getting real, about doing real change, right?
It is. When I brought up with Lisa a couple of weeks back, first thing she said to me was she knew it was coming. It's a show called The Repurposing, and it's the conversation that we've been kind of missing out on for the last few months because the other two shows, the One People show and the Collective Imagination, get so busy with discussions about issues with banking in the main part, and courtesy notices and all of the other sort of more technical direct issues that relate back to the original work of the One People's Public Trust. And what we're talking about on this show is, in a sense, simpler, but it's a very, very large discussion. And it goes like this. We're sitting here, and you and Bob are talking to an audience of, hundreds of people, and that audience is on your page. They know what's going on. And on the other two shows, they know what's going on. And around the alternate media, a lot of people know what's going on, but we are only a drop in the bucket in terms of the actual number of people on this planet. So we're in a period of transition that most people on this planet don't even know about. There's so many issues regarding how do we actually transition from where we are to a new paradigm, and what does that new paradigm look like? And how do you actually repurpose all the bits of our current system? How do you do that? So
you're really talking about the collective society, not just us as individuals.
Talking about everybody. This is the big one. This is how do we deal with the entire planet and all its issues? And it sounds like it's actually too big to bite off. But
it kind of does. But
oh yeah. But well, look, co-host is Hope Girl, who's been running the Fix the World program now for several years, and she's done some fantastic.
She's on top of it.
Yeah, she is. She has a laundry list of topics to discuss, which have She's had people all around the world have written essays on that. She's made a movie over. She's put together a very large network of people through this process who are all on the same page, some really great minds, and we'll be calling upon those people as the weeks go on to offer up their views directly to the audience. And really, there's going to be some really intense debates because how do you handle, for instance, taking groups of very religious people and revealing to them the fact that we've been having discussions with Pleiadians.
I don't want to get in there. I don't want to get between them. No, not really. But we can point them at your archives and say, here's what's actually going on. Yeah.
How do you deal with our partners in contrast? How do you deal with the politicians? How do you deal with the banks? What are we actually going to do on the ground? So and what's come out the last couple of weeks is the discussion of community. The enthusiasm that people have for starting up their own soul group-based communities or just general interest communities or communities just based on people who live in the same location and want to make it a better place. However you paste it, where everyone starts to talk about communities. So the conclusion that we'll most likely come to is that our starting point is look around, we're in it. Our destination will be sort of regroupings. Andrew Bartzis would call them local realities, and like you guys experienced in Shasta, and Bob and Lisa and all the others experienced in Morocco. That's the kind of community tightness that we're talking about. And that's a totally different paradigm. So, question is, how do we get from here to there? And the answer is actually, in principle, it's quite simple, but we got to get to the detail.
Yeah, we got to do it because I can't go back. I'm like, shoot, let's get it on already. Because I've been there and I can't wait for I guess everyone else to have that same opportunity.
Yeah, and look, it's going to discuss it as we may. When the shift is triggered, and even the discussion about how it will be triggered, by what, I mean, you could have a show just on that. And in fact, that's actually really, we do really cover that on the One People show fairly often, what will do it. And it actually doesn't matter that much what will do it, because it'll assume a life of its own once it begins, and discuss it as we may, it'll just be I think it'll be like one of those rodeo machines that you see in bars and pubs. I think we'll all be riding the wild horse, and it'll be bumpy, but ultimately the ride will settle down to be smooth, and we'll just head off out wherever we're going. So expect some really, really amazing conversations in the next few weeks on this show.
No, looking forward to it.
It's like we've got the whole week covered now. And one of the really great things about, the whole 5D Media Network, and I know Lisa's listening, kudos to you, Lisa, because you changed the conversation of the entire collective alternative media as not focusing on all of the problems. We're all focusing on the solutions and what it is that we really want to do. And I'm so, all these shows that are coming up, and it's such an amazing privilege to be a part of it. I want to thank all of the audience who tune in, because it really is a space where people can actually start to get some positive reinforcement for what they've always known in their hearts. Changing the conversation, because we're done with the problems. Let's move forward now. And I'm watching all of this organizing that's taking place, and things and plans that are coming together. And I'm so excited as to what it's going to look like in the end. You know? We're reaching the point where we're starting to see, you know, as the puzzle pieces are coming together, we're starting to get to see, you know, a vague resemblance of a picture, you know, and we could already tell it's going to be beautiful. But I just can't wait to see how this is all going to come together and what it is that we can actually move into in our future.
I had a conversation with a client of mine on Friday afternoon. Unexpectedly, he just made some little comment that left me an opening to start a discussion. And he's actually from the Middle East. And we talked for about an hour, and he was incredibly open to everything I was telling him. It was amazing, Bob. People are ready to hear new conversations. They're ready to hear this discussion, not just within the alternate media, but outside. And, Brad Smits and Scott and I are doing this show on Saturday night. And last night, it's an AM radio show on KTA in Carolina. And we were talking about stuff on talking on mainstream media about stuff they'd never heard before. There was a guy walked into the studio while we were talking just to do some minor thing. While our host Danny was actually running the show, he didn't leave. He stayed and listened to the show. So they're ready. They're ready to hear it. And you know, you've got to be measured about what you say, because some of it's just too outrageous, and you've got to kind of do it in baby steps. But I'm looking forward to a time in the very, very near future when this conversation is going on everywhere. And I have no attachment to how it actually begins. I have an attachment to a peaceful transition. Okay, and a transition that serves the people. That's the only attachment I've got. Everything else is fluid, completely fluid. And the really good thing, Bob, and you alluded to this a minute ago, is that conversation, the nature of the conversation seems to, on the alternate media, is changing, and it seems to be far more based on, hey folks, we're all on the same side. We've got differences of opinion about what can be done and how it can be done. We've still got one opinion that change is here and we have to deal with it, and we are all on the same side.
That's one of the lessons I had growing up with my 6 brothers. Is my father sort of got fed up disciplining each one of us all the time when we had issues, and he was never really present to see who was really like the guilty party. So he really entrained in us, we're on the same team. Why would we do anything to hurt each other? Like, we suffer as a group and we benefit as a group. And he really had lots of interesting techniques to do that, but I'm not, suggesting we use those in the public because they're, a bit dramatic within a household setting. But in the end, I really did get, a lot more energy flows when you're working as a team. And, in the long run, you have much better results in terms of the collaborative opportunities that lead to, the next stages of experience.
Now, we can't forget, too, that the team is actually bigger than we think it is. Now, harken back to that session you had on Friday with the Pleiadians in the oneness place, as they call it.
Yeah.
And, at the end of the session, they actually made the same comment that we're all on the same team. It's not just us on this planet. We have so much support from off this planet, from the new guys, from whatever you care to call them. It's a very big team. And hey, I'm glad they're on our side, because that's a fantastic thing.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at even if we don't consider the conversation that I had, there are billions of people on multiple planets and societal groups like, Pleiadians, Sirians, Arcturians, Andromedans, all that, and they are finding a way to work together in the, billions and billions. I don't really know, probably even trillions, and they've found a way to really cohabit the galaxy and beyond. And there's a system out there that is really within our grasp. It's not that hard. We just need to take a moment to drop our personal spaces just enough so that we work as a collective space. Right?
Yes.
Put a little bit of our just enough ego on the side so we can see the bigger picture here. You know?
That's a very important statement, actually, because one of the main reasons for the infighting that happens around the alternate media, if you examine it, from that neutral place that we're all trying to get to measure information and measure situations, it's largely egoic. It's I want to have the best solution, or my solution's better than yours. And anyone who has solutions to problems that are different to mine, I may disagree with them, but please make them work. I don't care who gets the solutions. It's getting them up and running and out there, and you could apply that to anything right across the board. It really doesn't matter. It's just
on some lines, it's kind of like saying there's all these new energy technologies, right? And are they in competition for the market, or do we not care? Any one of them, just come up and do it. I don't care which one comes out first. No, I don't have a problem. And so that's one way to see how obviously we just want to move forward. And we have to move forward together. One of the things that's starting to happen is simulcasting. These internet radio stations starting to hook up their broadcasts so that it reaches 3, 4, 10 times the audience in one hit, plus the podcast downloads and listens afterwards. And why wouldn't we do that? Hope Girl has an amazing network. She's got a system where a piece of software that actually hooks together all her social media, and she can queue up the releases she wants to make for the day, and that will blast out. And she actually has worked out she can reach 185,000 people, literally at the press of a button, with one release from this combined system that she's got. I mean, that's extraordinary. That's excellent.
It's really, really good. And we're looking at that. People will be jumping in to do just that in the next few months. And getting out to the mainstream is absolutely inevitable, based on the responses we're getting from this little half-hour show that's airing on Saturday mornings in Carolina. What Danny said is he thinks we'll be offered a drive time slot pretty quickly. Unfortunately, that means for me probably getting up at 5 in the morning, but who cares? Who cares? It'll be really good. It gives us a place where we can actually learn to communicate effectively out in that mode, because you have to be careful about everything you say. It's very easy to step too deep down the rabbit hole in that particular scenario. But you guys will want to wrap. You've got 90 seconds to go. Thanks for letting me come on and talk about the show. Hopefully we'll see the guys listening here tomorrow. They possibly can get to it. And look, again, thanks for letting me on.
Well, thanks for sharing your perspective and the information, Chris. I'm sure a lot of people here are looking forward to joining you tomorrow.
And excellent. For everyone else, thank you for all of you callers who called in, everyone in the chat room. Please make sure you tune in on Monday nights, the One People Radio, Tuesday, the Collective Imagination, Wednesday, Enjoy, Thursday, the Remembering, Friday, I can't remember. Saturday, the Transitioning, Cool Coincidences, and we will see everyone next week on the Transitioning here.
Thanks for joining us, guys.
Thank you. Good night, good day, everyone.